This episode is sponsored by the Unblend web application. You know those moments between sessions when something comes up and you need a gentle nudge to pause, slow down, and go inside? The Unblend app helps you do just that. It's IFS informed, HIPAA compliant, and guides you through checking in with your parts to calm your nervous system. It is not a replacement for therapy, just a helpful tool to check in with your system whenever you need it. Unblend is also a useful tool to help you remind you to check in with your parts between session, records your chat history, and co-creates a map of your system with you. It also has a handy voice feature that allows you to close your eyes and listen while the app guides you through your system. You can learn more by going to unblend.me to start using the website for free and spread the word if you find it useful. Welcome to The One Inside. I'm Tammy Sollenberger. I wrote a book called The One Inside, 30 Days to Your Authentic Self. You can find that, past episodes, links to Substack, and all the things at my website, tammysollenberger.com. On today's episode, I welcome Dr. Angele Close, a clinical psychologist, a motherhood coach, and a mindfulness teacher who draws on IFS to support maternal mental health and well-being. She helps mothers navigate the identity shifts of matrescence, releasing perfectionism and shame so they can embrace motherhood with greater self-compassion, confidence, and joy. She is the author of a new book, which I'm so excited about. I got to read it ahead of time and provide an endorsement, which I was super honored to do. The book is called Unburdening Motherhood, a guide to breaking cycles, healing trauma, and becoming a self-led mom. Welcome to the podcast, Angele. Let's start where we always start, which is where you are in the world and what do you see when you look out your nearest window?
So I am in the North Shore of Chicago, so North Illinois, and I have a big, beautiful window that I face here in my office. And right now, it's just a wall of trees because it's a beautiful time of year, and I'm aware of that, and I'm savoring it. I'm aware of like a clingy part of myself because it's all going to go very soon, and it's going to be a very different view. So I've just been sensing that lately as the mornings are crisper, and I'm like, oh no. Because I love it. I love looking out and just seeing all the green. And
Yeah.
we lose that green for about 6 months out of the year. So,
Yeah.
but I shouldn't cling. So I'm just gonna appreciate the green, and it's all impermanent. It'll come back next summer. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. Okay, so totally off topic, kind of, but the parts of us that cling, I love that you're naming these parts of me that so it's right after Labor Day weekend, and I literally started crying. I started on the way to the beach yesterday or the day before that. Literally was tearing up. Like, this is it. It's over. This is it. It's over. And I can definitely feel this like exile energy of school starting. My son's going into ninth grade high school, and I'm like, it's all over, and it has this um, huge heaviness to it. So if I'm going to jump to motherhood because I think that's the thing that they say like no one tells us. Like no one told me that it would be over. And it's not over yet, but it's over in these other ways. Like come snuggle with me on the couch, and he's like, no, and I don't. I don't no, I don't no, you can't say no. No, no is not an option.
And you
S
don't know when that day's gonna be, right? Just like you don't know when the
Yeah.
day's gonna be when you're like, I remember the last time your kid wants you to pick them up. Like, we don't know those moments. Yeah, you're right. Nobody does warn you about all of the mini incremental changes, transitions, or we could even call them losses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what happened? I know you talk a little bit about your story in your book, but tell me what happened that you were like, "This is a topic that needs to be explored, and I'm the one that needs to explore it."
Well, it was not an intellectual pursuit. It was a personal. Like I kind of thought I knew what I was focusing on as a clinician. I had trained, I'd been a therapist for almost 20 years, 15 years, and I was a mindfulness meditation teacher. And I thought, okay, like that's done. And now I'll just work. And it kind of happened with the move. So I'm from Canada. My family, we moved to the US about 6 months before COVID. And so I had 3 kids. And at the time they were, I'm going to think 9, 8, and like 6. So they're all kind of close in age. And although motherhood was, I mean, totally exhausting, I was fortunate that, I had 3 healthy kids, that those whole early years were fairly smooth. I don't wanna say they're easy, 'cause they're definitely not easy. Juggling all the things, but something for me was when my kids got to that age where it's like, okay, now they need boundaries, limits, more parenting, really, like, they're not just little anymore. And we moved to the States, and then it was COVID, and I think kind of these multiple stressors of, like, losing my community and then, being stuck at home with 3 kids and being their teacher on top of their mom and just my kids' development. Like, it just got really, really hard. And I felt inside I was carrying a lot of feelings that I didn't have language for. But I was struggling, like, really having a rough time. And my mindfulness, was just not enough. That all of the tools that I'd had, and I thought, I'd had therapy to become a psychologist, and it just wasn't enough. And then I was listening to this podcast. I was like on the treadmill in the basement, trying to stay sane. And I clicked on this podcast because it was called the Happy Mama Movement. I was like, I need to be a happy mama. Like, that's literally why I clicked on it. And the author of that, of a book, and the podcast host describes this thing called matrescence, and it's a thing, and she starts talking, and I was like, "Is she talking about me?" Like, one of those moments where I was like, it was an aha, and she explained how, as mothers, we feel really torn and split, like, there's, like, the you before you have kids and then after, and it's this word that an anthropologist, Dana Raphael, came up with, many years ago. She was an anthropologist, and she's actually the person who came up with the word doula because she was very
Oh,
interested in what
wow.
happens. Yeah. And so, like, what happens to moms, women, when they become mothers? Like, there's this process, just like adolescence. Like, there is a becoming, there's a transformation. And it just put validity to my experience, and I instantly sort of, like, half this shame and self-blame that I'd been carrying because I thought, "Well, I'm just not good at this. If it's so hard, I mustn't be good at it," right? And that kind of dissolved somewhat, and yeah, it was just huge. It was a huge shift, and and then I read Dick's book, You're the One You've Been Waiting For, and I get a second aha, like, it was, like, literally these 2 things came together, and I was like, "This is amazing." And, of course, the IFS was really the practices that helped me through this phase, like, going from feeling like I'm failing in motherhood, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just feeling so bad and ill-equipped to parent my kids the way they needed, and I realized I had to do my own healing. So part of what was coming up for me was that matrescence acknowledges that as you're a mom, your unprocessed wounds are going to get activated. They're going to come up through that journey of motherhood. And that's what was happening to me. But not having, right. So these terms of matrescence and this model IFS, it just gave me a map, it gave me a language, and it just was incredible. And so it totally shifted me personally to dive in to do that work and really experience deep healing and feel like a better, more confident parent and all of that good stuff. And then I was just like, all moms need to know about this. Why don't other mothers know that they don't have to, be blaming themselves?
I love that. Like when you say this idea, and I feel like I resonated with it, the idea that motherhood, like the becoming a mom and motherhood is like adolescence. Like I wouldn't expect, like even when I have issues with my son, whatever, there's a part of me that is always kind of reminding me, like, well, he's in adolescence, like he's in this becoming phase. And so, if he doesn't do blah blah blah, whatever that is, I feel a little bit more I feel like there's a parts of me that give him more grace, or maybe myself gives a little bit more grace, which I don't know that that happens as a mom, especially a mom is a new mom, or a mom is with a 3-year-old, or, when you're a new mom, it's like, yeah, it's interesting. So I'm like, yeah, it feels like you're either bad, you think you're bad at this, you're like, I'm a bad mom or I'm a good mom. Like, it's like,
Yeah, certainly, I agree, as I think we do give grace, understanding, "Oh, teens are going through this thing," and moms need that same grace too, because you're absolutely right, Tammy, is it for the first time, especially the very first time you're having a child, like, and it's true of all moms, you don't have to be a birth mother, right? But just taking on that role and being a caregiver to another human being, it changes you, and it changes so many different things in your life. We have this idea called the mother's mandate, which is this cultural idea that, well, if you're female, you're supposed to be a mother. Like that's your destiny, that's your role. And therefore, and it should be natural and you should know what you're doing, right? So this myth permeates in our psyches and it affects moms. Every mom I talk to, like it's just in us. And so what happens is we do have these really high expectations on ourselves becoming moms. And so that inner critical part, that's absorbed these messages that we should be good at it and what that looks like and what a good mother does and is and all of those things have been already scripted for us. And and that is heavy. That is a weight and it is a burden on all moms, I think. It might manifest differently for sure, but we carry it. We carry it and it can't not affect our experience of motherhood. And I think it seeps into our relationships with our kids because we're trying to navigate, well, I want to be a good mom. And what does that look like? And our parts are trying to get in line. And it's not as conscious. Like I think making it conscious so that we have more power, so we can be an empowered mother and not, just kind of we're unconsciously our parts are aligning to kind of make us this good mom. But it leads to a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of moms.
Yeah. Tell me more about this idea of and there's all this legacy around like what being a good mom means to me is going to be so different, not totally different, but there's going to be some differences based on my family values or kind of what was passed down to me, and then my parts are going to take that on, and then there's going to be a lot of activation and activity around like making sure that that happens.
That's right. That's right. I'll give you an example of one of the moms I worked with, and I think the story might be in my book. Um, so her mom was a stay-at-home mom, and and then when she had her two littles, she started to really struggle with staying at home. Right? She had a very ambitious part of her that was really rewarded and fulfilled in the work that she did. And but she was kind of ignoring this part because it didn't align with this idea that that was okay, right? It didn't feel okay. And so as we unpacked why that is, there was like a part of her that felt really sad. And as we're like kind of getting inside, and guiding her to kind of go inside so we could see what this is about for her, she was able to see, oh, a part of me is believing that because that a good mom stays home with her kids because my mom, that's what my mom did. And so she was like, not allowing herself to feel okay with the fact that, well, I'd love to work part-time, that for her, it's different than her mother, right? That for her, she wanted to work, but she was feeling guilty about it, right? So a lot of moms carry parts that carry this guilt. Like if I'm working, I feel guilty because I'm not with my kids. If I'm with my kids, I feel guilty because I'm not pursuing any of my interests and passions at all anymore because the myth of the selfless mother. Right? So, is that a clear example? Does that make sense, Tammy?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
great example in the mom world of stay-at-home moms and working moms, and the people that are working so or the moms that are working so hard to balance both of those, like, to be a full. Yes, I guess I'm curious, like, how do you help the moms that are like, "I" this sounds like I wanna be like a full like, the benefits of stay-at-home mom plus, like, the benefits of being a career mom. Like, I want to have both of those things, and I have parts that work really hard to try to make sure that I'm having both, and obviously, when you're in the one role, the other one's upset like, just like you said, like, you're in the one role, the one's upset, and then if you're in the other role, other parts are upset. So how do you help, moms that are really in this polarization?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good point, and and we are trying to sort of, so many moms are totally depleting themselves to try and do that, right? Like,
Yes, yes.
um, and so I gotta say, I'm gonna bring in a story that I saw, Chandra Rhimes, she did a keynote talk at a college, and she spoke to that, very successful, obviously, creator of all these amazing shows, and, she has 3 children, and she said, "I can't do it all." She said, when I'm choosing to show up for my daughter's ballet class, I'm missing whatever, this episode of, so Sandra Oh's last episode of Grey's Anatomy or whatever. So you get the gist. And I remember when I heard that, I said, thank you. Thank you for being this, successful career woman who's, clearly accomplished, trying to juggle it all and do it all, who's saying it's not possible. Because I think this idea that we can do it all and have it all and have this be the successful career woman, thank you, second wave feminism. But, the standards haven't changed in the home for the most part, right? Yes, I'd say, the men of the younger generations are more involved. But from the research and talking to women and moms, they're still doing the primary. And the demands on parents are higher than they've been. So, school emails. I mean, in the 80s, my mom was never, there was no email. There was no calling the school unless your kid's in the principal's office. We leave you be, right? So the demands are so intense. And so I think it's impossible. The things are going to drop. You're gonna give things. I think you're constantly making decisions, which is, I think, what is so stressful and hard for moms. And I think where IFS and the lens of IFS can bring us the clarity, first off, right? Because we get to go the practice of doing that U-turn and going inside so that we can listen to what all the different parts want. So we have that awareness of, oh yeah, so I'm feeling this part that's feeling guilty. And there might be a part that's grieving, that wants to not give up anything. And I think that that grief at having to make decisions um, is helpful. It's part of being a human. When you have to make a decision of one thing, you're losing something of another. And that's okay. But I think we do ourselves a service by going, having that courage and taking that pause to understand that's what's coming up for us. So it's not so personalized. So it's not like it means I'm failing. Because what I find is without that capacity to go inside and, I'd be able to identify, okay, what have I observed from the culture or my family line? What did I see my mom do? How is that influencing me? And what's the logistics and the realities of today and what's possible? It gets a lot to balance.
I'm wondering if people listening, if they have what's happening for me, is I have two parts coming up. One that's like the comparing game. Well, other moms seem to be able to keep track of all these friggin' emails. All other moms keep track of, oh no, that he needs to wear white on Tuesday and blue on Thursday, whatever the hell it is. And, like, you sort of the comparison of, like, other moms can keep track of it and come home and cook a good dinner, and we're gonna order out. So I have sort of this kind of what other moms can do. I'm noticing that. And then I'm noticing another part that comes in, not with grief, but with this, like, beautiful defended, like, "I'm okay because I have a podcast," or, like, sort of like, um give me these excuses that don't let me kind of feel the "Oh, I wish I could do that," or, like, kinda don't let me feel it, kinda just give me an immediate defense, like, an immediate defense of, like, "Well, other moms are doing this, but I'm doing this." So it's kind of like maybe a little polarization in my system. I don't know, that's what I'm kind of
Okay.
hearing.
Okay. Right. And I'm hearing that too, as you describe it. So there's this like ping ponging. I guess I want to speak first for sure. I'm glad you named that, Tammy, that there is that perception, especially because of social media and a lot of these, momfluencers or these ideas, or maybe you're going to the schoolyard and there are the moms who seem to have all their shit together,
And they
right?
pack the lunches.
And
Can we just make a
yeah.
note for the social media packing of the lunches that you baked the, like, sugar-free, gluten-free muffins and then the
Yeah.
lunches with the containers. Okay, now I'm remembering all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I blocked it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I certainly can't speak for all moms, but I know I have that one where I'm like, I for sure resonate with what you're saying because I am the mom who will send my husband to the wrong soccer game address, like all that, and so I do sometimes feel like, is it just me who can't do all of this stuff and I'm dropping the balls? And I don't think it is just me. And I think too often we have, and this is what I'd say the part that's the perfectionist mom. So that's cultural ideal right now is what's called the intensive mother. So the current what is a good mom, this paradigm we're trying to kind of model and emulate is intensive. It is doing packing all the lunches beautifully and perfectly and homemade, but she's also killing it at work. And she's also going to play paddle, so she's fit as well. And still, those beauty standards are still on her as well. And she's the social coordinator of the kids and the family. I mean, it is intensive, right? And she's also
Right.
emotionally attuned to what her kids need at all times, right? It's nuts. And many moms, so we have this part that, I call it the perfectionist part in my book, but we're trying to meet those standards. We want to be a good mom, and so we want to do all the things. And so there aren't enough of mothers, I think. They're out there a little bit on social media, but talking about how it's impossible, right? Like actually being truthful and honest, because we put on a front that we want to be that mom. We don't want people to think we're a bad mom. So we become, this performative part out and about. And if you're lucky enough to have a couple girlfriends, mom friends, where you can really be authentic and talk about what it's really like for you and how hard it is, and you can validate each other, that's the best. I think it's necessary actually to get through motherhood, is to have that support system. But not all moms do. I certainly didn't. And I think that was part of when I moved, and I moved to this little, northern North Shore town where there's a lot of, we're all perfect. We have all our stuff together. So I really, really felt that. And and so it's tough. I think honest conversations and finding other moms and finding your people so that you don't turn that against yourself and feel like I'm failing as a mom, and go down those shame spirals. So that's one thing, just to speak to the part of you that's coming up. How does that land for you? Let me just stop there, Tammy, because you shared you had that part. So I'm just curious to see how that landed for you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I feel like you just naming it as like this intensive mom myth. I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, that feels really good. Just like you just naming that. And I'm guessing you said this earlier, and I appreciate you sort of timing out and seeing how it was landing for me.
Hmm.
But you said it earlier about these different myths and the importance of just kind of naming these things instead of kind of being blended with them and suffering with them, that if we begin just to name them, even this idea of being a super mom, like the super mom myth. And so I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit, which I'm guessing it kind of really tracks with the mom, kind of the intensive mom, but this super mom myth. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of similar. I think, whether we call it a good mother, super mom, intensive mother, it is the mom that's doing all the things, right? She's volunteering at the parent teacher organization. She's involved in all the kids' sports. Like, I don't know how. And I mean, I want to name too that I am fortunate at this stage of my life where I can work. I don't have to work in a full-time way. And I say that because I think moms who have to, or want to, right? I just want to acknowledge that there's privilege with not needing to stress or feel like I have to work full-time hours, because I actually think, how did I do that when my kids were little? Because I did used to. I used to work full-time when my kids were small, and it was bonkers. Like, it's by the end of the day, you're so exhausted trying to check off all these boxes of what is a super mom. You're so completely exhausted. And what I see with moms is, number one, they're too hard on themselves because they think, well, I'm never going to be super mom. So that's one thought thing, is it's unattainable. It's so unrealistic. So there's going to be a sense at some point that they're not enough. They're not good enough. Not a good enough mom. But also, I also think of like the energy that's going towards, how am I being viewed? Are other people seeing me as a good mom? And that's your energy for your life. And that's, your time with your kids, right? And I just think too, like, there can be grief there and there can be regret there when our parts are and that's usually the manager part that's taken on, I'm going to be perfect and super mom. It's like we can lose that clarity that self energy will give us. And so we can make these decisions based on, am I a good mom? Are people seeing me as a good mom? But then what are we missing? It's moments of just getting messy with my kids and making art and being that play, that creativity. Um, connecting with my kids in a way rather than managing them. Because part of being a super mom is, well, your kids listen to you. You have a great relationship. One of the myths I talk about in my book too is, good moms have good kids. And so your kid's behavior, quote unquote, bad behavior by your child is a reflection on the mom. Right? It's not usually, oh, well, where's that dad? But if you hear of a kid having behavior challenges, it's like, where's that mom? Right? So all of that judgment is there against the mothers. And I think we can't not absorb it. And I think being able to name it is helpful, but then also to see how it's manifesting in our own life. How much are we unconsciously absorbing? And how is it informing how we feel about ourselves as a mom? And how are we connecting with our children around it?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so as you say that, I'm gonna push up this idea that being a mom pushes all of our exile buttons.
Yeah,
Because as
that's
soon as
right.
you're like, I'm not enough, I'm like, yeah. I mean, so whether it's I'm not enough or I'm not like for me, it's a lot of like I'm unwanted or not wanted or not needed. And so I'm really curious. So we notice these myths, we notice the rules that we're kind of putting on ourselves. And then how do we begin to notice that like, wow, this is touching all of my wounds? Like in IFS, we would call exiles, but sort of like all my wounds are definitely getting touched.
Great question, Tammy. You're absolutely right. And just also then to go back to when you shared with me your polarized parts, like you said, right? I have one that's worried that compares me to other moms. And then you said, and then I have this other defensive one that's trying to kind of battle that one a bit and point out, well, what you do, right? So, and then actually, so the question I had, but I wasn't gonna, necessarily go to, but it was like, okay, then who are these two protecting? Like who's getting missed underneath those two? Would I'd be curious about, right? And so I think you're absolutely right. And I think life, moms have firefighter parts. We do have polarized parts. Um, and moms are so busy. I mean, one of the things is they're so busy trying to be super mom and the demands on parents, and I'll say parents because dads do own some of this stuff too, but there's so much to be a parent in this day and age that you're trying to take care of. It's almost like we don't have the time. We're so exhausted that those deeper parts of us are often staying buried, or we get those polarized parts that are trying, our protectors are the ones that are just trying to keep it down. So, with the firefighter behaviors. So I want to be super mom, but then at some point I'm just like I'm going to waste my Sunday drinking wine and binge watching Netflix because I'm just got a ballot, like or
Right.
whatever.
This is
So
why all the moms are drinking wine. All the moms are drinking wine while they make dinner. This is why.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it kinda is, and that's, I'm a little critical of that in my book around the wine culture for moms for that reason. But I also
Oh, okay.
invite when I touch on it in the chapter on firefighters, I do unpack that a bit because it really bugs me that our culture, it makes jokes about it. It's in our vernacular.
Yeah.
We have, you know, um, napkins, you'll see them at the store with, like, the '50s retro wife, and she's like, "There's 2 reasons I drink
Yeah.
wine, Jane and John," and kinda thing, like, and it's in our culture, but I think it whitewashes over how hard it is to be a mom, and so it's like it's kinda like, let's joke and let's let the moms drink their wine to cope with the fact that being a mom is so hard, So I mean, I've certainly made
Mm.
those jokes myself, but I also don't wanna just laugh it away. I think that is a legitimate way that we have firefighter parts that are helping us cope with, keep those exiles down. I am feeling like I'm not good enough and I'm exhausted and my needs are just like it's so low on the to-do list here. I'm so depleted. So then the wine becomes the way that we get a reward or, at the end of the day, or it's a treat because I certainly, that was it for me on my first maternity leave, or maybe I know I had 3 kids very quickly. And alcohol hadn't really ever been a thing for me, and then so suddenly I noticed when I was, like, having a glass of wine to cook dinner, on a fairly regular basis, and I realized, "Huh, that's unusual," and I thought, "Well, I used to jog before I had kids. I used to meditate for like go upstairs for 30 minutes. Well, I certainly can't do that now. So what do we get that's for me? And then oftentimes that becomes the wine. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, Tammy. I think it's really important.
Well, and I like what you're saying too about like this exhaustion. And then even if I think I just want to say this, like even if it's like you're juggling work and kids, or even like the moms that are staying at home, like they don't ever get to go to the bathroom. At least it like when I was working part-time. When my son was little, I'd work part-time and have him it's like the best of both worlds, I felt like. But it was like at least I got to go to the bathroom by myself and like talk to other adults. And so it's like there's I don't like the mom comparing, like, who's the tiredest or who's doing the hardest thing, and I think that's the other part of mom culture and probably connected. I'm curious about kind of what parts, kind of what exiles that is protecting to be like, I'm suffering more. Like, the suffering mom, is that another myth around, like, how much we all have to suffer?
Yeah, I don't know. You bring up a good question. I mean, I certainly, and I talk about this in my book too. I brought up, and it kind of organically happened. I wasn't really planning it, but when you look at mom culture and mom communities and spaces, the comparison, the judgment, oftentimes it's women that are judging each other and holding us to the fire much worse. And so I speak about kind of this kind of, patriarchal, because speaking of cultural legacy burdens, right, of pitting women against each other. And I see that in the mom space, and it's sad and it drives me crazy because we need to be having each other's backs. That's how we need to be doing to move through matrescence and motherhood and by supporting each other. Yeah.
Yeah. What would be helpful for me and you and our listeners to be more self-led? I'm like, give me 3 ways to be more self-led. Part of me that wants the quick fix, right? Quick fix. 3 more ways to be self-led. Yeah.
We do want that, and as a busy mom, like, yeah, if you're home with littles, I mean, you need a quick fix, and you need a fix that you can't carve out that alone time. Because 'cause you're right, just to carry on what you were saying. And so, I mean, I'll share one that I mentioned in the book that a mom shared with me when I was interviewing her. She said, "When I feel trapped in the house," she had a small son, like, small son. He's, like, 2, toddler, right? And she's like, "In some moments where I just feel so trapped in that house," she said, "I'll invite him, we'll go in the backyard, and I'll walk barefoot on the grass." I don't know if you've ever done this, Tammy, but I do it quite regularly. Barefoot on the grass, if it's not winter and where you live, is an amazing, just instant embodiment, right? There's something about rooting to the earth, bare feet, and then she said, and she accesses some more self-energy. And and you might include that by looking at trees or looking at the sky and just that energy of being held, right? Where self energy holds us, can be a game changer for a mom in a moment, in a pinch of just like I'm losing my mind, right?
I love
So
that.
it
Yeah.
might be nature for you. Um, the breath. I mean, I know people have sometimes this, because there's a lot of talk out there now about breath work. And so I think a lot of people have a resistant part that's like, oh my God, if some person tells me just to take a breath, and I get it. And I actually share, I have that little voice that says that too. And at the same time, I worked during COVID, I worked with a therapist for a period of time who taught me a one breath meditation. And I was like, "What is that? What is that gonna do?" But I swear by it that one slow, deep breath in, hold it for a couple seconds, and a slow exhale out, often through pursed lips. So because there's something if we purse our lip, like, keep them open like as if you're blowing out a straw, and it'll extend your exhale, which will calm the nervous system. Now, it's not gonna take you if you're at a 10 out of 10 of frustration, it's not gonna take you to a 2 or 3, you're not gonna be some Zen Buddhist, but it does take you maybe down to an 8 or, maybe to a 7. It's enough to just, get that little bit more awareness, you're a little less blended with whatever part has taken over. So that's, I think, just it's practical. Anyone can do one breath with awareness. So that's my second. And what would my third be? I mean, I've mentioned it, but I'm just gonna pin it. It's community. It's like connection with another mom, another woman. That came through a lot in interviewing and working with a lot of the moms for my book was, one mom was had older kids, so she was kind of through it, and it was great to kind of hear from her, like, you're not in it, your kids are in their 20s, they've launched. It's a different lens, right? And I said, what was the thing that, got you self-energy, got you through it? And she said, girlfriends, like community of women. And she said it didn't have to be a mom's group per se. It was a book club. It's like, but where do you connect with other women? And I think motherhood can be very isolating. So I think sometimes that's hard. So, I unpack it a little bit in my book to give ideas for readers. I was very isolated. I did 3 maternity leaves when I had my kids in the town where my husband grew up. So I didn't know anybody. And I would go to these library groups or, mommy and me things. And it just never clicked because, like, I don't know, it's just like after the lady did the sing song, or if I just didn't know how to actually connect with other moms. And so I tried, but unfortunately I didn't try hard enough because I really know if I think back to those years, I really needed that and I really would have benefited from it. And the moms that I hear from that did get it, it's like it's night and day. They I've heard of from so many moms that say, they went to that postpartum group and it carried them through some of the toughest times. So I would say, so the need though, in terms of self-energy, it's got to be safe space. I'm not talking the moms that are going to tell you, well, you should do this or you should do this to your, for nap time. No, it's a non-judgmental, like I'm here and I trust that you have the answers within you and I'm here to just listen. Those can really create that self-energy within that space and community.
I love it. I love it. This was so helpful, and I know that we can talk so much more. And I'm so excited about your book coming out. So, is there any? Well, let's let everybody know kind of where they can find you, where they can get more information about who you are, and more information about your book, and pre-order your book if we can even start to do that.
Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, you can. So it's published. The publishing date is the 27th of January, 26. So it's around the corner and you can pre-order it. And so the website to find that link would be unburdeningmotherhood.com. And from there, you can connect to my website. And I do have some free videos using IFS for moms. They're very short and it's free if you just subscribe to my website. So that's if people want to learn more or do some more practices, experiential stuff, they can do that.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. So let me ask you my last question, which is, if you had to do something different in your world, what would you do?
I would be a painter. I would
Oh,
be an artist. I grew up, so painting has always been my hobby, I guess you'd say, my creative aspects of myself. But my dad, I always grew up and I don't think I ever heard the word artist without the word starving in front of it. Like
oh,
literally. Literally it was starving artist, starving artist. And so I never pursued it. For me, it was just like, okay, I guess that's just my hobby because, I don't want to starve. So, so yeah, family legacy burden there, bit of a block. So if I were, to enter into a second career, yeah, I think I would paint and just enjoy.
I love it. I love it. That's so
Thanks.
funny. Starving artist. Well, thank you for this. I'm excited. Let's talk again soon and let's stay in touch because I want to hear, all the things about your book and just all the cool stuff you're doing. So thank you for this. Like mom to
Thanks,
mom. I
Tammy.
appreciate
Yeah.
appreciate what you're doing. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you left a rating, a review, a like, comment, share with your family, your friends. That would mean so much to me. My book is available at your favorite independent bookstore or on Amazon. You can visit my website, tammysalenberger.com, or you can download a free Get to Know a Should part of you. You can follow me at IFS Tammy on Instagram and at The One Inside on Facebook and on YouTube. Jeff Schrum co-produces The One Inside, and I am forever grateful for Jeff. Also thankful for Jack Reardon for creating the music, and just thank you for listening. 6 seasons, over 1 million downloads. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you in this community. I'll see you next time.